Hey guys, how you going? Alright, we'll move on. Okay, next fact. They are easily aggravated and can't help but respond. They are almost compelled to. So basically, if you have a thought or you say something that they may take offence to or they do not like or basically they're insulted by, it is almost like they are compelled to respond to you. It's like they almost, it's like they can't let it go. They will find a way to respond to you. So basically, if you have a thought that they don't appreciate or anything that they do not approve of or disagree with or are insulted by, they will basically host people that are around you and respond back to you. So that they'll either threaten you or insult you. So what they do with me, if I have a thought or something like that that they don't approve of or they don't necessarily like, they'll get my son, they'll host my child, and he will come into the room with one of his action figures in his hand and he'll go, "Hey Dad," and I'll be like, "Yeah, what's up my boy?" And he'll go, "Oh, Action Man's dead." These are little things where that they will respond and make threats to you. If there's no one actually within your presence or around you at the time and you say, for argument's sake, have a radio on, they'll actually host the presenter of that radio station and threaten you through them via the radio. They will use any means they have necessary to basically communicate back to you their dislike for what you've just thought or what you've just said, and they will threaten you or say something nasty in regards to you. So it's just something to be aware of and keep an eye out for. I highly advise you to not go out of your way to upset them or insult them to see this actually happen, but it is something that will happen if you do find yourself in that situation. But once again, I do not condone going out of your way to offend them or to upset them. But if you do find yourself in that situation where you have, they will retaliate, and these are the means they will use to basically threaten you or get their voice across back to you. So it's almost like they're compelled to. They can't help but retaliate or respond. Okay, moving on. Okay, next fact. Do a lot of self-conditioning in regards to any insults to train yourself to be less affected by them. Basically, what this is I'm going to tell you a quick technique now that may work for you, may be beneficial. It's something that you can entirely choose yourself whether you like to do it or not. But basically, you need to be aware of all your insecurities, all the things that you hold negative ties to, events, past traumas, tragic events, things that have happened in your life that you still hold negative emotional ties to that could quite possibly be brought up by them through hosted people around you or via the radio or whatever means necessary they need to communicate these things to you. You need to be aware of all these things about yourself. So basically, both male and female. So in regards to female, it could be your insecurities about your breast size. In regards to a male, it could be about, you feel you're too skinny and you don't have enough muscle mass and things like that. All these little things, insecurities that you have about yourself, you need to be aware of them, pinpoint them, and know them. So pretty much what I'd basically do for myself, and whether or not you choose to do so, is basically know these things, point them out, and actually say them to yourself. Now, you don't do it in a way where you're actually running yourself down and putting yourself down because of these things, because that then is when you can actually lower your frequency, your vibration, and give off energies that basically that you should be storing for yourself. You need to do it in a way where you're pointing out these flaws that you feel are flaws within yourself, where technically none of us are flawless. We are all perfect and beautiful, but no one ever thinks that way. We all have insecurities. I do, and I'm sure you do. You need to be aware of them, basically look at them, focus on them, and say them to yourself verbally, basically. So if you feel you're too overweight or you're fat, say that to yourself. Say, "I am fat. Yes, I am fat. I am overweight. I am large. I would rather be a lot skinnier, but I am overweight. I am fat." By doing it this way, basically, you're hardening yourself up to any insults that can be thrown your way via hosted people or from the means that the Archons could use upon you. Now, there is people out there that will talk against this and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that because you'll lower your vibration, you'll give off unnecessary energy." It is best to do it this way than to have it thrown at you via someone else. That then is when the exchange of energies take place. So by you saying these things to yourself, it doesn't hurt you as much because you're making these observations and pointing them out and saying them. But in turn, by doing these things, you're basically you're adapting, you're adjusting yourself to be able to hear these things said about you whilst being less affected by it. So when you do come across a circumstance or a point later on in your life where these things are said to you, you will in turn be less affected by it. It's when someone else says it to you, whether they're hosted or not, basically they could make an observation and say these things and you go, oh, it hurts you, it affects you. That's when the energy exchange takes place. That's when your vibration, your frequency, your resonance can actually be brought down because you are more affected by someone else saying it to you. Whereas if you repeat it to yourself and say it on a regular basis, if they ever do indeed say something like this to you, you will find that you'll actually be less affected by it. So it's a good little practice that may work for you, it may not. Something that, only you can choose whether or not to do it. But I did find for me it was beneficial and it helped me out a lot. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. If you try to tell anyone about them, they will always attempt to sabotage your efforts. This is one thing I have noticed. The moment you make the conscious thought or the decision or the choice within your mind to actually share this information or talk to someone about it, they will always try and sabotage your attempts to share the knowledge or what you've learned in regards to them. So just so you have a friend and you want to approach them and talk to them about these sorts of things or about this topic or this subject, the moment you do go to talk to this friend, you'll find maybe someone else will cut you off before you get there and try and distract you and get you to go somewhere else, or they'll try and lure you with things that you lust for, or that they'll always find little tactics and ways or means to sabotage your efforts to do so. Basically, even if you do not get distracted yourself and then you go to your friend, the moment you get in front of your friend, they will be called by someone else, and someone else will be, oh look, come over here, and then your friend will be like, oh look, just wait a minute, I'll be back in a few minutes. These are little ways and means they can basically distract, or you'll go to talk to your friend and all of a sudden their phone will ring and then someone will come on the phone. It'll be an important call. It could be their parents, a family member, things like that, and they'll have to, oh look, just give me a minute, and they'll have a phone call, but by the time the phone call's finished, either they have to go home or they have to move on or things like that. So there's lots of little distractions they will pull in regards to basically sabotaging your efforts to share any information or knowledge you have in regards to them. So if you ever do go to share what you've learned or what you know, you will encounter these tactics used upon you. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. If you ever notice or see someone being picked on or ridiculed, be the person to speak up and point out their good qualities and traits. So what I mean by this is, just say it could be around family, friends, or even at work. So just say you're at work and the boss is scolding or ridiculing or coming down hard on one of the employees, one of your fellow workmates or employees, and basically be the person to stand up and point out that person's good traits or good qualities. So just say, for argument's sake, that the boss is having a go at this worker for not getting a certain job or a specific task done that they've asked them to do. Be the person to stand up and go, well, yes, they didn't get that job done that you asked for them to get done, but they were just over in this department and they were doing the work of 3 people. They're one of the best workers we have here. But by doing little things like this, basically, you have pointed out not only their good traits, but you have picked them up. Sometimes just a kind word can brighten a person's day. So they've gone from a situation where they're being put down and ridiculed and mocked or scolded for not getting a thing done. But you've pointed out the fact that, look, they didn't get it done because they were over here working like 3 people and they're one of the best workers we have here. So sometimes just a little thing like that can help pick that person up. So they will leave that situation feeling, yes, I just got scolded by the boss, but there's at least one person that notices and recognises the efforts that I put in, and they'll feel better about themselves. It doesn't take much to pick someone up, A saying I try and live by is basically it takes a bigger person to pick someone up than to knock them down. So sometimes just a kind word or a simple gesture can brighten someone's day, and it's something we can all do. We can all do on a daily basis. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. Do not be fooled. They are extremely intelligent. Boy, is that true. In regards to their intelligence, I'm telling you all now, we do not have a scale large enough that could adequately measure their intelligence. We do not. Their intelligence is so far beyond anything we could fathom or scale. I'm telling you now, it is not funny. They are unbelievable. Their intelligence is unbelievable. I pretty much had recently someone enter my life. Now, I didn't realise, but basically they've manipulated situations and events in my life where I'd actually come across this person. Now, me and this person, we just clicked, we just gelled. Now before I even carry on with the story in regards to this, because this person, I didn't realise at the time, actually had one of these entities, the Archons, residing within them, right? Now, this is how clever and manipulative they are. They had ensured that I'd come across this person, and we'd just hit it off. Our conversation, just their minds were brilliant. This person's mind was brilliant. The way they could converse and talk, and the way they thought was amazing. It was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed just their time, just sitting there and talking with these people. Generally, when I come across people or I talk to people in my day-to-day life, I'm normally always the one that, during conversation, will always offer other points of view or other aspects, or think of it from the flip side. And they're normally like, oh wow, you always sort of try and cover all angles and think from different perspectives, and that's just how my mind operates. When talking to this person, their mind was just like that. I found it thoroughly enjoyable talking to this person. Now, over a week period, we'd had many conversations, numerous conversations, and their scope, like my scope in regards to conversation, is rather broad. Like, I don't specialise in any one like specific field or topic. I have a bit of knowledge across pretty much a very broad scope. So there's a lot of things I can talk about. This person was very like-minded and had pretty much the same attributes. So the conversation was just excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, just the way their mind worked and everything like that. It was brilliant. But at the time, I didn't even realise that throughout that whole time and the conversations we were having, I was actually communicating to one of these entities, the Archons, and it was rather funny. I'm not the type that's sort of fueled by ego or anything like that. Basically, when we were having conversations, we were both contributing, and then I almost found myself, or we almost found ourselves, it was like we were entering into small battles of wits. And for me, it wasn't about a battle of wits, but it was like we were just testing the limits where we could go with our thought processes and the way we'd sort of answer each other questions and offer our points of view on any given topic that we were talking about at the time. But their mind was just brilliant. And it started to get to a point where when they were talking, it was like they had a little bit of ego in the way they were communicating to me. Like, I didn't give off the vibe or the energy that I was better or they were better or anything like that. But excuse me, sorry. And so basically it got to a point where the way they were talking to me was like they were taking the high ground, like talking down to me, sort of like as if, oh, you're a dum-dum, you don't get it, sort of thing. And I really didn't take offence. I thought I was a little unnecessary, but because I'm honest and open, I basically said to this person, I said, oh, look, I'm getting the feeling the way you're coming across at the moment is with a bit of ego within the way you're talking. And I didn't even realise that this was the entity within this person. And the conversation we'd exchanged some numerous conversations, and I felt rather comfortable around this person. So I'd spoke about personal things and everything like that, and felt comfortable enough to do so because I thought within myself, this person is smart enough to respect and understand that there's certain boundaries in regards to personal things with people, that you don't cross those lines. Yes, you can have an opinion, but there's a certain line you do not cross. And pretty much they began to get sort of rather almost like an aggressive nature with a good mix of ego in there. And once I pointed that out, they've basically, the topic of the conversation turned in regards to me doing these videos that I do to share with you all. And the comment was made, well, look, you've done a nice little collection of videos. Why don't you sort of stop focusing on that and start spending more quality time with your children? And I was a little, I wouldn't say offended, but I was a little like stood back from that. I thought like that was, you know, a little unnecessary and a little uncalled for, but I thought to myself, well, you're entitled to your opinion, and I can respect that. And I replied by saying I spend quality time with my children. I spend very good quality time with my children, and the videos that I do and the things that I do is something that I work on alongside with my day-to-day life. And then they've gone to, well, what if like these videos and this information you're putting out there, what if it got into the wrong hands? And I replied and basically said it was like they kept drilling back onto focusing. Their emphasis was put back on the fact that I'm doing these videos. And I've replied back and said, well, I understand your concern there, but basically the people who are meant to see it and understand what I speak of, they will in turn be led to it, guided to it, and they will understand what I'm saying and they will get it. The ones who aren't meant to will not get to see it. The ones who do stumble across it will, if they're not meant to know or understand this, they will instantly write it off. They will dismiss it, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I feel that what I've put out there, the right people will come across it when it's the right time for them, and the people who aren't meant to see it, well, they won't, or if they do see it, they will dismiss it simply because they're not ready for this. So I answered it as best I could and tried to, you know, I thought that was it, and then all of a sudden they've gone, well, and started to get agitated and basically, well, what about your children? Couldn't this be a threat to your children? And I've gone, hey, like, whoa. I took offence to that. I thought, like, hang on, that was... And I've pretty much said, like, I'm doing this, and because they've basically gone, look, why don't you just focus on your family? Focus just on your family and leave the videos alone. Like, they were just, the real emphasis was on basically to me to stop doing these videos and just focus on my family. And I've pretty much, I was a little offended by the tone and the way that that sort of question was like delivered to me. And I pretty much said, what I'm doing, I know within myself is the right thing. Now, in regards to my family, I love my family, I care for my family. My children and my partner are my immediate family, but in regards to family, I have a planet that is full of my family. They are all my family. They're the reason why I do this, is I'm doing what I do because simply I care. If I was to stop doing what I do with these videos and sharing and just focus on my immediate family, then I'm turning my back on the rest of my family. And that was how I responded, and the entity within this person just got very agitated by this answer, very, very agitated by this answer, because it was like they couldn't manipulate me to stop me doing these videos, and for every question and way they tried to manipulate me or direct me or guide me, I had an answer, and I was staying true to myself. And pretty much they started to get aggravated, and then that actually hosted the entity that was residing within this person had hosted my partner, and they knew how to trigger me. Basically, they got angry, so they wanted to trigger me and make me angry, and they did. They got my partner to come. She jumped into the conversation and said, well, who do you think you are? God? Are you going to change the world? And I'd lost it. I lost my temper. I lost my cool. I'm not proud of that, but I pretty much thought, how dare you? Like, you're supposed to be my partner, you know, my rock, my soulmate, the person I can confide in, and the person who believes in me. And even you're questioning my, you know, the very essence of who I am. And pretty much they got agitated that they couldn't manipulate me or steer me away. And yeah, they'd hosted, you know, the people that I hold dear and use them to attack me. So the conversation ended, I wouldn't say in a very nasty place, but it wasn't a very pleasant sort of ending. And after that, the conversation sort of finished, and then the next day, it wasn't until the next day that I sort of realised and gone, whoa, hang on, and the penny dropped that the whole entire time I had actually been speaking to one of these entities, and they'd come in and found common ground and tried to sort of mix on a level with me where we interacted and I felt comfortable, and then they tried the manipulation. And in regards to the ego that person was giving off, I've got to be honest, I can understand now why they do, to a degree, have an ego, because, you know, I'm no super brain, but I can hold my own. But I'm telling you now, people, this entity, in regards to talking to me and communicating with me, was dumbing it down. I now know this. They were dumbing it down. Their minds are phenomenal. I'm telling you now, even when we'd converse and talk, like, I'd put things forward, it's like they can take it in, twist, manipulate, turn it upside down, change it, and then put it back out. It's just the way their minds work is unbelievable. In a debate against one of these entities, you will lose. I'm telling you now, this entity was dumbing it down to talk to me, and that's why the ego had sort of come in a bit, is because it knew that it was so far advanced in compared to where I could hold myself within conversation. It was dumbing it down to talk to me, and I can't even take offense to it, because simply I seen a glimmer of their mind, and I'm telling you now, their minds are brilliant. I know they hate me, I know they have a disdain for me and a hatred for me, and they do not like me, but I got to witness, I bared witness to their mind, and it's, their minds are brilliant. There's the levels that they can think to and manipulate and twist, and just the way they can, unbelievable. There's, like I said earlier when I started this fact, is that there's no scale we have large enough to measure their intelligence, to measure it. It's just, even after the fact, even though I was insulted and pushed to a breaking point, I still even said after the fact, via my mind to this entity, basically, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. It was amazing, and most conversations I've had with them have been rather short, brief, and quite nasty in regards to their side, as opposed to talking to me. They've been pretty nasty, and haven't had much to say, but just nasty things to me. But I got a very good chance to sit down and talk, and just, their minds are brilliant. Their minds are brilliant. So it's, no feelings or anything incorporated into this. It's just, I can respect when I see a brilliant mind, and their minds are brilliant. But anyway, that's enough of that. We'll move on to the next fact. Okay. Alright, next fact. There is nothing academically we could achieve to impress them, but they can be touched by our emotions and actions. Now, this is something I have noticed. Pretty much when I first dealt with them, I was of the mindset that basically they're all just nasty, they're all just evil. But I'm starting to see and recognise now that there is varying degrees of their personalities. Yes, there is some that are just downright nasty. They are just downright crude, nasty, hurtful and mean. That's just their nature. But I'm starting to see now and realise and witness that there is some of these Archons, the negative entities, that yes, they are a negative entity, but there is varying degrees to how bad they can be. And it's almost like your emotions, your feelings and your actions, they can be touched by. It's like they can connect to that. And I feel personally that there's some that I know, just they don't hate me. It's just that it just so happens that, the best way I can explain it is it's like a soccer match or a football match, whereas it just so happens they're on the other team. They're on the other team, and that's where their loyalties lie. And I can appreciate and respect that. But I've even had them say in front of me before, like, I do feel sorry for this guy. His world's been turned upside down. And then another one would come in and go, just shut up. So it's rather strange. I just know, I can feel it. It's like that connection they can feel. And I don't know if it's on their own, they can't, but via us, they're able to feel our emotions, and through our actions and things like that, that's how they're actually able to get those feelings. But I have noticed that, there is varying degrees of their personalities, and that there is some that, they can see and they know if someone's hard done by or things are going very bad, and they can see that and recognise that. And it's just, it's hard to explain, but I'm telling you now, don't just naturally pigeonhole them all as evil, because they are not. I've learnt that, yes, there are some that, although they may be on the opposing team or on the opposite team, they can feel, and they can see, and there is to some degree a level of understanding or consideration there, which to me, I'm so glad I've seen that. But anyway, I'll move on to the next fact. Okay, next fact. They will ensure that at all times there will be at least one person in your life or very close by. This enables them to have access to you. So what I mean by this is, once you're aware of them, they will normally ensure that you have a friend around at all times, or a family member, or someone, a physical person will be around you as often as possible, or at all times, or in close range or proximity. They do this because basically they can host and leverage that person and use that person to manipulate you. So generally they'll use your partner or family members, people you respect or you have a lot of love for, because they know they can pull the emotional heartstrings and twist and manipulate you that way. So generally they'll always try and keep at least one person nearby that they can use to leverage to perform these manipulations on you. Now generally they'll make sure that these people are either good friends or family members and things like that, but that's just something I have noticed. This doesn't mean you have to write everyone off from your life, you know, it does not mean that, but it is a tactic they will use. They will use the people that are around you, so your children, family, your partner, you know, close friends, things like that. You don't have to write them off, but just be aware that sometimes they will be used as a means to manipulate you or you know, change your path or your direction, where you're headed in life. So just something to be aware of and quite possibly just keep an eye out for. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. You need to keep your heart and your intelligence aligned. This is actually quite important. So in regards to your heart and your intelligence, now you could be the most intelligent person in the world, but if you have a corrupted or a darkened heart, you could be that smart and that in tune where you'll know when they're manipulating you or you know, trying to twist you or change directions in your life and that. But if your heart is corrupted or black, you will fall for their lures, things that you lust for. So they will find you very easy to tempt with things, to distract you, to, you know, with either money or things you lust for, like the nice house, the fancy car, things like that. So you can be super smart, but if your heart is corrupted or blackened, they will use that to basically manipulate you. The flip side of this is you could have the biggest heart in the world, but if you haven't worked on your intellect, they will basically use your heart against you and pull the heartstrings, the emotional heartstrings, and twist things and change things to basically manipulate you as well. So what I've found in regards to your heart and your intellect is keeping them aligned and in sync. By doing this, you carry yourself with intellect, but you are guided by your heart. So by doing this, your heart can't be swayed, but your intellect will still be aware and see and recognize when these sorts of manipulations are being placed upon you. So in regards to your intellect and your heart, your mind and your heart, keep them in unison, and you'll find you're in a far better position to defend yourself and recognize these things when they present themselves. Alright guys, what I'll do is I'll wrap this video up here for now, and yeah, if you wish to learn more, please follow on to the next video, and I guess I'll see you all there. Thank you very much for your time.